Okay, hello everybody. It's been a couple of days since ReaperCon and ReaperCon 2021, and I've got my thoughts together, and this is kind of my after action report on this year's ReaperCon. They limited attendance to about half or a little bit more. Last time that we were in person at ReaperCon, there were more than 1,600 people that attended. This year, I think they said there was only around 900 that attended. And so, needless to say, it was significantly down from the last time that I was there. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the classes and stuff. And we're going to go through what I did and how I liked it. So I got there Wednesday. And Wednesday night, is it Wednesday night? I think it's Wednesday night. There's a meet and greet for VIP pass holders. And that was a lot of fun. It's normally they call it the pizza dungeon. And this time, I don't know why there wasn't pizza, but it was hamburgers and hot dogs. Which turned out to be really good. And it was a lot of fun. All the artists and the ReaperCon staff were there. I've got some pictures I'll try to post as well of that event. And it was a lot of fun because everybody was real casual and just arriving. Most people weren't settled in yet. So, seeing people that we haven't seen in like 2 or 3 years from previous cons and saying hi and catching up. So that's the first thing that we did. Then Thursday morning, we started off really fast. My first 2 classes, as I said, that day were painting chibis and speed painting busts. We've already taken a look at these, but I'll show you one more time. This was the Chibi Miniature that they gave us to paint and practice on. Little Sophie, which is the mascot for Reaper Miniatures. Little Sophie Chibi. And it was mostly about the face and eyes, which needless to say are some of the biggest features on a chibi miniature, as well as kind of the tactics and how painting chibis in general is different from painting standard miniatures and a regular miniature scale and the different things you can do with it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, as I said before. Thought that turned out really well. And the speed painting busts, as we saw, really enjoyed that. That was such a different class. Most classes are only an hour and a half long or 2 hours. This was a full-on 3-hour class where we painted the miniature. We started painting the bust from beginning to end. And most classes have handouts. The Chibi Miniature didn't, but this one did. And basically what the guy had done, what was his name? Eric Swinson. Is he took a picture of the bust in different lighting aspects and then went into Photoshop and basically kept upping the contrast. So you had like the standard photograph of it, black and white grayscale photograph, the high contrast, and then the extreme contrast to it was just down to black and white to show you really give you a sense of how deep your shadows needed to be and where they all needed to be, as well as your highlights and on up. And that was a very different class. He was very funny. He was a great teacher. His thing, he didn't want to see anybody blending. He didn't want to see anybody making glazes or washes. He wanted just base paint and keep painting. Lay on that paint. He's like, it's not as thick as you think it is. Just keep painting and adding layers. And once you've got it down, we painted it in stages. Basically, these 3 stages here. And from here, then you went to there. And then to get to here, you just kept mixing these two, your lightest lights or your base colors and your highlights and your shadows together to kind of keep bridging these gaps between your highest highlights and your deepest shadows until you came up to this level. And in 3 hours, I mean, I'm a pretty intermediate painter, in my own opinion. And in 3 hours, this is what I ended up with. He said he didn't want to see anybody painting the back. He's like, this is a bust. We're just, your focus is the front and especially the face. And about two-thirds, maybe two-thirds, maybe about 2 hours in, he went around and he basically told everybody, okay, stop. You know, if he thought you were at that point, he said, stop painting the entire thing and just focus on the face. Just focus on these parts here. Just this center portion of the face. And once he thought you had that good enough, then he was like, okay, now you can go ahead and kind of do the eyes or do the hair a little bit up front and work on some detail. And then if you kept going, he said to throw some war paint or some scars on it to make him, you know, individual from everybody else's. And I mean, he was funny. He was really informative. He painted along with us. Needless to say, his was amazing compared to mine or a lot of people's in the classes. And he was very interactive. He was very proactive with the class. He got up, he was walking around, you know, showing where he was at, picking people's miniatures up and really taking a look at it and giving them as much feedback as possible, dragging colors over if he thought that they weren't bright enough or wasn't enough contrast on their miniature. He would just sit there and really show you what he meant by that. Great class, highly recommended. If he does it again anywhere else, Speed Painting Bus, Eric Swinson, check him out. Go check him out online. He's got some great stuff. Really fabulous teacher. I enjoyed the heck out of that. Yeah, and that was about it, because that basically made it about 5 o'clock. By the time that I was done with that, and then ate something, and I still had my miniature to paint to put into the MSP Open, the Reaper miniature painting contest, which was due by 2 o'clock the following day on Friday, and I still had classes on Friday, and so I had to paint it as you heard all night. So yeah, I did that post at like 3:30 in the morning after I'd finished painting my miniature, and I'll show him to you at the end. But we'll go on to what happened on Friday. Friday we started off real early. I had a 9 o'clock class, and that was easy eyes and faces with Michael Kleiman. Learned some nice stuff there. It was pretty much a very kind of early intermediate to beginner class. I forgot my glasses, so I was very chunky with my paint job. But he had some good tips on what to focus on and an easy way to paint eyes. Repeated graph pen, 0.005, I believe, the smallest that they make, to go in there and just dot the eyes. And it's a water-based pen, so if you messed up, which I did, you can just go in with a wet brush and pick it up and take it off and try again really quick. That was only an hour and a half class, and it was unfortunate he didn't have any kind of handout. But I got this cool miniature too. I really like her. She's from the Warlord line, kind of a sorceress with a halberd and this book. I really like her. I'm definitely going to try to paint her up better, or fully, I should say. I think she'll be fun. I really like this kind of sorceress miniature there. All right, and after that, there was I had a bit of a break for a couple hours, and I went and ran the artist table and turned in my miniature for the painting contest, and did a couple other activities. They have a bunch of free video games, which I thought was cool, like arcade games and pinball machines down there as well, and a ton for con attendees to just go up and start playing. It was a lot of fun, a lot of old, like original Gauntlet, and a lot of old great games. Had a great time playing that for a little while, and went around and saw the rest of the con on Friday, which was great. We did a lot of there was a lot of gaming tables and companies doing demos. Most of those you had to sign up for online through their ticket ticket site, where you signed up for classes. You also signed up for games and demos. So I wasn't able to get in on a lot of those. But this year they always had they started last year having last time having battles for the storyline for the whole campaign for the whole con, and the storyline for the role-playing game part of the con, and they had 3 ships. They've got these giant, Reaper just made these giant ships, full scale, like 3-masted sailing ship miniatures, and they had 2 of them out on a table with a little port village around it, like they were in for docking. And then they had the bad guy faction for this con come up in a glow-in-the-dark 3-masted pirate ship mini with a bunch of ghosts and undead on it. And so there were like 5 people playing versus like 2 guys from Reaper who were playing the bad guys, trying to take this port town. And they did this basically every other hour for people to play. And it looked like so much fun. I never got down there whenever they were setting up for it, and so I never got to get in on it this time. But it looked like such a blast because you got like a bunch of guardsmen to put on to play, and then like a couple of characters from various factions of the convention that were there, like mid and high level characters that were defending this town. So that was cool to watch. I watched that a couple of times, as well as watch people play various role-playing games and some of the demos. And then after Easy Pinning, Easy Eyes and Faces, I went to Attacking the Monster with Michelle Farnsworth, which was really interesting. It wasn't a terribly hands-on class, and I wasn't too sure what it was about, but I've got a lot of monster minis, and this is what I got there and painted up for that class. But it was mostly about putting together the giant and the big scale models, miniatures, your big full-size Cthulhu in scale, or the big dragons. And she does amazing stuff. She painted the 5-headed Malithrax. I don't remember what it's called, but Reaper made a 5-headed dragon in the Bones 4 set. That was amazing, and she painted it up. And she was doing the most recent Godzilla as a scale miniature with this amazing base. And she had all these tips and tricks for putting them together and how to manage your time and where to put your effort in. She also had these Turbo Dork paints that she had just recently started using, these metallics and color shift paints that were really kind of cool, and she encouraged us to play with and put on this guy to help us, use them. And she was like, mix these with your paints, put them, use metallics to add depth, and color shift paints to get effects. And she just really liked them. She wasn't like sponsored or anything. She was just like, I think these are awesome, and I loved playing with them, so maybe you would too, while she was talking, which was a lot of fun. And that was it for Friday. Again, that went pretty late, and then recovering from only getting like 3 or 4 hours of sleep was a little bit difficult, so I crashed kind of hard on Friday night. And Saturday was all of the events results. Saturday I had one class, and the judging for the miniatures contest was done, and since I only had one class kind of late in the afternoon, I went out and tried to get in some games, and I got into a tournament for a game that I found out turned out to be really fun, called Gatefall. And it's a mashup game of basically kind of a dimensional rift opens between a post-apocalyptic world and a fantasy world, and you're fighting over the gate. You either play the post-apocalyptic side or you play the fantasy side, and you each have a few miniatures, and it's in a great scale. It's in this big, like 80 millimeter miniature scale, and it looked pretty simplistic because the board's real simple. It's just this big rectangle with a bar in the middle for the gate, and fantasy starts on one side and post-apocalyptic starts on the other. And then you basically go in and you're trying to control the gate and take out the other side, but your characters respawn when they're killed. So and you get 1 victory point per person that you kill from the other side, unless they're a special rule and they give you more or less. And then they respawn, and your goal is to get to 7 victory points. Well, during the game, you can upgrade your characters and all sorts of stuff. And it turned out to be really, really good, and lots of strategic choices. I enjoyed the heck out of that game, actually thinking about getting it, as well as the miniatures look great and would be a blast to try to paint up. But it was a lot of fun. Check that one out. There was a tournament. I made it to the 3rd round of that tournament for that day. Kind of disappointed I didn't get all the way to the end. I think I got 3rd place, and the prize was to get a copy of the game, which would have been awesome because that game was a lot of fun to play. And it's a head-to-head arena duel, but in there they've got an expansion coming out that's going to make it multiplayer with kind of a gate in the middle, a Chinese checkers kind of thing with a triangle gate in the middle and 3 different people coming in from different sides. So yeah, anyway, that looked like it'd be a blast for multiplayer. It was a great game for just 2. And then I went to my final class for the weekend, which was painting plaids with Brian Persol, I think. And this is what I painted. It's one of the Pathfinder core characters, iconic characters. And I don't know if you can see that. I painted a little bit too dark with the plaid there. It's a black watch pattern. And he had a really fascinating handout for painting plaids. And he says this, and it really was, that's what we focused on, but the way he taught it is really good for painting any kind of pattern on a miniature, a repeating pattern on any miniature clothing or skin or whatever. And see, here are some of the examples for scale for the checks and the patterns that he had on his little handout. And the whole thing that it comes down to, at least in his mind, and the way he taught it, was getting it good enough to read. Because if you actually tried to do all of this detail in scale on the miniature, it would muddy and you couldn't see it well. Which he painted a couple of examples while we were painting this little bit. And yeah, you know, if you tried to paint the lines as shown for the actual pattern, especially something like this, which a tartan looks really good, but at this scale, you know, when you're painting this close, it would look okay, but by the time that you put it on the table, you know, you're not even going to see it, which is why I know mine's too dark, because away from me, you can't even see that pattern. So yeah, that was a good class too. He taught it well. He was easy to understand, and a lot of fun. And that was my final one until the painting competition. And here is what I painted for the competition. So this guy here, and I made this base at the con. There's a group of people who had a base and take, which is a play on Reaper's paint and take, where they had a whole bunch of basing supplies for you to build cool bases for your miniatures that they supplied, and you could just come over and use their stuff. Otherwise, this guy would just be sitting flat on the base here with maybe some sand. But yeah, here he is. That's the guy that I painted up. And in Reaper's MSP Open painting contest, there are 4 categories that Reaper judges on. Open, Ordnance, Painters, and Diorama. Needless to say, this does not qualify as a diorama. It's not Ordnance, it's one guy. Ordnance is a vehicle, a giant robot, something like that. And Open is whenever you do kit bashing or major modifications to the miniatures. So just changing the sword wouldn't put it in Open. Just swapping the head wouldn't put it in Open. You'd have to do some major modifications to it. So needless to say, I entered in Painters. And it's not a top 3, you know, there's not like a first, second, third place. It's all based on your skill. They're basically judging your ability to paint in a gold, silver, and bronze setup. And this little guy here netted me a bronze in the Painters category. And here is my bronze medal from MSP Reaper. Can do better yet next year. Silver next year. I don't think in a year I can get to gold, but who knows, maybe. But we're definitely going to go for better than bronze for next year. And I can see why I didn't get it, even though I think this is really well painted. The sword is pretty bland. There's no freehand work done on it. I didn't really shade terribly much to show a light source with this true metallic metal paint here. I did a little bit here, but not enough. It's not quite contrasty enough. There's not enough focus. I'm not like drawing attention to the face or the chest or any particular place on the miniature. I mean, I understand why I got it after the disappointment of all that work and only getting bronze. But, you know, whenever I think about it, I know why. And I can agree with it. You know, I should have done something in here, maybe painted a wood pattern so that it'd be a little bit more interesting in there. Or really pushed the shadows so that it wasn't even like a thing to draw your attention. But yeah, I think I did a good job. Got a bronze, a little disappointing, but I need to try harder. I know what to do to get there. And we'll just have to do that next time. There were also some other awards as well. Some special awards. Reaper Sophies, basically since it's Reaper's convention, they also, besides just the general MSP Open contest and Best in Show type of things, Reaper judges its own minis. So if you entered a Reaper miniature, they'll judge those specifically for a special award just for their miniatures. And they had a couple of different categories. You know, there's the Reaper Sophie, which is just any Reaper miniature can win that. Mouseling trophies, if you did put in their little like mouselings, adorable little miniatures. You probably saw them on another on my big unboxing of my Reaper VIP, because they put out some mouselings, and monsters, like any big monster. I don't think it has to be theirs, but it might be just any Reaper monster. I'll have to look up the rules for that. But that gets a separate award as well. And then a couple of the vendors also had awards there as well. There was a Chibi Midnight Heroes does Chibi board games, and for anybody who entered a Chibi miniature, whether it was theirs or Reaper's or any Chibi miniature, got judged by them or by the judges for them, and they gave a series of awards as well on what they thought were great and for people entering Chibi miniatures. And then Bombshell Miniatures also did awards for anybody who entered one of their miniatures, and they had bronze, silver, and gold as well, and some big statue awards that they gave out. A couple other ones. Dark Sword normally has a series of awards as well for people who entered Dark Sword miniatures, but due to COVID, they didn't come down. I think they're based in Michigan. They didn't come down for the con this year, so there was no Dark Sword awards at the paint opening. Yeah, and that went late because there were about 700 entries this year, and they basically went through and judged them all and told you who won what for them. So that took a while. It was fun, but that took the rest of the night. And then there was a dance party with DJ Rice Cube, which was actually pretty good. 80s synth pop DJ. That was fun. Nothing quite like watching a bunch of nerds and cosplayers dancing late into the night. Some surprisingly good dancers out there, but it was very entertaining and fun to watch. Yeah, and that was Saturday. Sunday was the day for me to run through, check out some more demos, watch some more people playing various games, but mostly running through the dealers area and spending my $25 con gift card from Reaper. And I've got some of that to show you here. So needless to say, I picked up some Reaper miniatures with that $25. this cool insect dude, Umber Hulk looking monster. I actually got 2 of these. I thought they'd be fun to paint, and I don't have any other miniatures like them, so anytime I need a giant insect, I'll have this guy to use. You can't have too many. I don't have very many monsters, like normal monsters, so I got a giant wolf. Need a dire wolf, or anytime anybody's pet gets enlarged or something, I've got one of those now. Little war dog. You know, I like the fact that he doesn't look like a German Shepherd. A lot of war dogs just look like German Shepherds. Looks like a boxer or something. I like that. I like that. Let's see what else. Oh, crazy little leprechaun looking dude. So anyway, I've got an idea. I want to enter something into diorama for next year, and I thought it would be hilarious to have this guy sitting there at the top of a hill with a kind of like a rainbow in the background. I'd make that out of, like, I don't know, colored plastic or something, or maybe I'd just paint a backdrop behind him that has a rainbow coming to the top of this hill. And I've got these little kid miniatures, these little townfolk miniatures, have them at the bottom, or like they're coming up a path towards him following the end of the rainbow, and just have that and make a nice little, you know, thing. But I like having little kids there, because then behind him on the backside of the hill, giving it a little bit so that you can see something different from all the sides. I was thinking of having like the Trix rabbit laid out behind him. You know, I don't know what I'd call it, but that was the idea I had whenever I saw him, and I also just kind of like him. He's a very, very neat looking little leprechaun. But anyway, that was kind of an idea for a diorama entry for next year. Let's see what else. Oh, I love Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, and this guy I just thought looked great. Little Decker, your virtual hacker character, a nice genderless character design too. You know, this could be a female character or a male character, you know, so I like that. I like that. I like the feel. He'll be fun to paint. And I dug this Orc Bandit, Orc Thief right here. Very dynamic pose, kind of pointing the 2 daggers. He's ready for some business. I thought he looked good. Yeah, so I got all of those. And I also pulled out some other stuff. Oh, I found that I showed you guys this on my first update. These 2 little guys that came in the pack that we got at the con, or at the hotel, for booking our rooms in the hotel. 2 halflings, a halfling like kitchen staff. Well, it turns out that there were 2 other hotels that ReaperCon had basically told people to go, that were participating in the con, giving a break on people who booked early and said they were going to the con. Well, there's more cooking staff or people for the inn or the restaurant or the cafe or whatever it's supposed to be. And you got different characters based on which hotel you stayed at. There's like a human chef with a pig, and I don't remember what the other one was, because they were out of it whenever I went to the store on the last day. Yeah. But anyway, I like these guys, and it would have been cool to get the whole set, but they'll probably put them out later. Oh, and I opened up a couple of those characters from the box. Here's that pirate with the mermaid. Lots of detail. Look at those scales, that tail. Comes with this cool coral base too. And here is the bust. You can see it better here. You could paint it up, just kind of cover the hole and smooth out the top. You could paint her with just the, you know, just the bandana on her head, or put on the tricorn and give her a paint as well. Pretty cool, like that. All right, so those are what I got there, but I also got some stuff something from another vendor that was there from Swordfish Islands, kind of a location. It's a fantasy, the Lapis Observatory location, and a little bit of an adventure detailing the observatory, what's going on there. This is kind of an excerpt from a full-on campaign that they wrote that's like a big, like 150, 200 page campaign setting. And they thought this stood alone pretty well, so they put this out as well, just as a separate. And frankly, an observatory sitting off in the middle of nowhere, I think that'd be something cool for a group of fantasy characters or steampunk characters to run across in their travels. Dreggerberg, down and out in Dredgeberg. This is a pretty cool little setup, kind of in Hades. It's a one-shot using 5e rules, and basically people find out, the party finds themselves dead and and their spirits are in this town in Hades, and you know, whatever the underworld of your world would be, and they're either spirits of humans, or they've been brought back as imps, or some of them could be playing spirits, and some of them could be playing imps. I thought this might be a fun little adventure to put in there if I ever have a TPK, and we just won't stop playing. Instead, we'll just have them be in this kind of limbo Hades realm, and they can play through that. And maybe I'll try to bring them back or give them a way back, or we'll just play their first moments in the afterlife. And then this I thought was cool. It's kind of a campaign planner's guide. There's a little location encounter for a map, and then this little dot grids that you can write on or draw more stuff on. You don't see this very much anymore. Isometric grid map for drawing a map kind of with an isometric feel. Lots of grid. And kind of some random little dungeons if you need a quick dungeon, or town. You know, there's a couple of those here in the back for you to just pop in and use, as well as landforms and biomes and swords and sorcery names and things that people will find. Probabilities. So if you're trying to figure out, like, people rolling with certain dice, what the likelihood of them rolling are. On a die 20, 2 die 6, 3 die 6, you know, this is the sweet spot for that. This is it for this. Anyway, yeah. Thought this would be helpful and a lot of fun to write in and use. And that was pretty much it. After that trip on through the dealer's room on Sunday, we hung out and painted a little bit on the tables in the ballroom. And that was it. We were done. And we headed back Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon. I think it was worth it. Had a great time. I think I'm going to pass on the Ultra VIP box next year, though. It was a little bit too expensive. I liked most of the stuff in it, especially since originally your swag bag was associated with your ticket. And since you got the VIP tickets and you bought the swag bag separately, if they do that again next year, I'll probably just get a standard swag bag to get kind of the basic stuff. Because you could also pick up everything that was in the swag bags at the con. So since I really don't need most of it, I'll probably pass on getting the big swag bag and just pick up the individual pieces I want once I'm there. Although unboxing that great big thing was a lot of fun, but I don't think it was quite worth it. Even if it is a great deal. I'm not sure I'm going to use most of it. Anyway, so that's my kind of end of the thing review. This has been kind of exceptionally long, a little bit more than 30 minutes. So I'll wrap it up, and I'll see everybody around the internet. Bye-bye.